Greetings and salutations, I am Skojo Insta360 if you're here. It's probably because you're either about to buy an Insta360 One X or you have bought one and now you're like, either way, congratulations, it's a great camera. It's a pain in the ass, but it shoots great stuff. But the software, but the 100 frames per second is epic. But the battery, now, I got into the 360 world about 5 months ago, but video production is what I do for a living, so I've been blessed to really give this camera a deep dive in the last 5 months. I've taken it hiking, eating, drinking, skiing. I've done 30 frames per second. I've done 50 frames per second. I've even done 100 frames per second, and dare I say, yes, I've done bullet mode. But I'm not addicted. I can quit anytime. Now, by far my most popular, my most beloved, and my most vilified videos have had something to do about the Insta360 One X or its accessories. Now, some people don't like my videos because I'm not gushing about every single thing about the camera. Why am I such a downer? Wait a second, to be clear, I'm not a downer. Despite the problems I have had with the camera over the 5 months, I still have it, and some of the best videos I've ever made in my career were made on that camera. The only real issue I have is that it feels like they skipped the beta phase or maybe abbreviated it so much that even to this day, there are a lot of issues with the camera that have remained unresolved. But the customer service has been responsive and we've been making some slow progress to getting all the issues done. But keep in mind, as of early 2019, many of the accessories that they have on their website, you cannot get your hands on. The batteries are really messed up, and the cold weather battery that I've been waiting to get my hands on keeps coming in stock and then out of stock, and then in stock and then out of stock, and then in stock and out of stock, and I guess what I'm trying to say is I've had an Insta360 One X albatross around my neck for the last few months, but believe it or not, I still think it's probably the best 360 consumer level camera for the money. But let's turn my suffering into your gain. I mean, hopefully when you're done watching these videos, I'll have helped you steer clear of a lot of the major problems I had, and that would warm my heart. So what we're about to do is dive into the ultimate Insta360 One X beginner's guide, with one disclaimer. I found that for my needs, dealing with 360 footage on an app or on their desktop studio software just really doesn't cut it. So if you're looking for something that gets in depth with the app or the studio software, there's plenty of other videos out there. I'm gonna deal mostly with the camera, the settings, the modes, All right, without further ado, let's get right into Skojo Insta360's ultimate Insta360 One X user's guide. The natural first step is just to start talking about the camera. I'm not gonna do a full unboxing because, frankly, those are boring. But let's get you right up to speed about what the Insta360 One X is. First of all, it's a 360 camera. It's got lenses on both sides. Yeah, 180-degree lenses on both sides of the camera. Thankfully, within the box itself, it comes with a really nice case. It's not super high-end or anything like that, but it fits your camera just perfectly in there, and it actually goes around your neck as well. So I really like this case, and I use it all the time when I'm in the outdoors. There's a ton of cords that come with this. I'm gonna just show you the one that's the most important, which is the one that will hook you from your computer to your camera. And the nice thing is that you can actually have this thing plugged in while it's still in the case, and then you can plug straight into your computer from there. So kind of sweet. And keep the thing in the case as much as you can, because these lenses protrude a lot and they scratch fairly easily. And it costs you a little bit of money to get the lenses replaced, so tale of caution. The next thing up is the battery. You get one with every camera, and I'd love it if these things were great, but they're not. But let's move forward. It's really easy to put the battery in. You just open up the little gadget there, close it, boom, you're up to speed. Easy to put the battery in, not so easy to want to work with the battery. But that's another chapter. If you're fortunate enough to get your hands on one of these battery chargers, which is sometimes a little bit hard to do, you can charge up to 2 batteries, and it takes about an hour to charge the battery. To blast through the charge can be anywhere from 5 minutes to 40 minutes. What doesn't come with it is one of these little wall warts, as we call it. It's got a USB there that plugs into the wall. And these don't come with it, but they're fairly inexpensive, and most of you probably already have these, and you know what to do. You just take the USB, plug it in there, plug that into your wall, and charge it. Again, it takes about an hour to charge, and boy, having one of these things, I definitely recommend having one of these chargers, if not two. Now, while getting the battery in the camera was fairly easy, getting the SD card that doesn't come with it unless you buy it as part of the bundle, the SD card into this thing is a little bit of a nightmare, especially with somebody who has short fingernails like me. Let's see if we can even do this in real time. It's supposed to go in like that, and then you press it, but it just keeps coming out. So then suddenly I'm having to grab like some tweezers or something to push it in there. And you know, this is, if you're out in the field and you're doing this, this is a nightmare. So getting the SD card in and out is a real pain in the butt. Insta360, could you get that fixed, please? Ugh, I mean, even getting it out. Gotta use tweezers, and then we go, there's the SD card. Now I'm finally able to shoot. Now, as you can see, it has two buttons on it. Let's just call this one the shutter button. We'll call this one the function button. And you hit the function button in order to get the thing to power up. And the nice thing is that it does have a display. The bad thing is the display is really hard to read when it's bright out, so it's almost worthless when you're outside. If you're inside, it comes in awfully handy. And the various buttons that you press, it will cycle you through. There's video mode, there's the settings, there's camera. So the menu is a whole nother chapter we're going to get into, but that is the basics of how to get around within the thing. Again, be careful. These are two lenses that stick out from the body, so you're going to want to keep it in the case as much as you can, but then take advantage of 360 degrees of photography, videography, cinematography, fun. Okay, now you've got your SD card in, the battery's charged in, you're ready to go, you got the basics nailed. Now you need to actually just get up and going. The first thing you should know before we get into the menus is that with a 360 camera, you're gonna want a selfie stick. If you just try to take a picture with it in your hand, you're gonna get this big hand in your photo. So you're gonna want a selfie stick. The good news is that Insta360 makes one that extends out fairly far, and it's a decent little one, a little bit picky when it's in the cold, but all in all, it's a pretty decent selfie stick. And the good news is it goes in very easily into that 1/4 inch. You just screw it in, and without getting too far into it, because of the way things are stitched and the way the lenses are, the selfie stick actually disappears and it looks like you've got a floating camera in 360. So you're definitely gonna wanna hook yourself up with the selfie stick. We've got that going. Now let's bust into the menus, which are awfully interesting. When you first power up, what's gonna happen is you're gonna go straight into camera mode, photo mode, which I would say it should start with video mode. There is a way to start with video mode that we'll get into later, but we're in photo mode for now. And as you can see, I've got it set for interval shooting. I set it for a 3-second interval. That way I can hit, take the picture, get my selfie stick out there, and I've got time to get the picture without it going click, 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 and ending up with a lot of photos that look really stupid. Okay, so we're into the menu now, and in order to get around, let's just call this the shutter button, we'll call this the function button. So we're in photo, there's video, there's settings. All in all, fairly simple. The problem is there's no back button in any of this, and in order to actually edit what you're gonna be in, you have to be in settings. So let's just say, oh, I'm in video, and I wanna edit my video settings. That's not gonna work. I have to go to settings, so I have to go back out to settings, hit enter on the shutter, and now I'm finally into the menu. If I keep hitting the shutter, it will cycle the different menus, like that's video. There is our Wi-Fi settings. There is the about, and now we're back. Now again, there's no back button, so if you're gonna go scroll down to something, and then you select it, if you wanna try to get out, you've got to scroll all the way down to the bottom to done in order to start all over again. Now I'm in settings mode again, and so I've got to scroll back through. Let's first go through the photo mode. If you're gonna go anywhere with this, you use the function button to go down. See how I'm in interval right now. If I want to edit that, I'll hit the shutter, and that will give me all the different types that I want. Do I want to do a 3-second, 5-second, 10-second? 1 minute. 18 megapixel pictures. All in all, with the HDR and especially, it looks pretty good, but that's about it for the photos. Let's go on to the video. Okay, now I'm back in settings mode. I'm gonna hit the shutter button in order to get into the ones I want, but again, I'm back into photo mode, so I gotta hit shutter again. Now I'm in video. Right now I'm in standard mode. If I wanna change it, I hit on the shutter button. That gives me bullet mode, which is actually pretty fun. Time lapse is also a great selection. You can adjust the intervals as you can see here. 1 second, 5 second, there's multiple seconds you can use there. You can set ISO auto or you can manually do it. For me, I'm out and about in the outside, so I just kind of stay with it on auto unless I really need it. Same thing with the shutter. It helps a lot if you want to get some great majestic stuff and it's maybe low light and that kind of things, but for now, I mean, it works pretty good just setting it at fast. Log, now that's an interesting thing. For a video producer like me, we love log. That gives us more color dynamic range to deal from, but I haven't found the log on this to be worth the time. The stuff looks great out of the camera. It's not a professional camera, so might as well just keep log off and then we're gonna hit done. Okay, let's explore the rest of the menu. Now, the different modes, we're gonna show you some footage of that a little bit later, but I wanna get you into the really cool modes that are here, and these are the different ways you can record. Right now, I've got it in 3K 100 frames per second. Not the highest resolution in the world, but it looks dynamite. It's very smooth, slow motion. Now, here's your 5.7K 30 frames per second. It looks pretty darn good. Now, remember, 5.7K sounds really big, but it's in 360, so it's distributed all the way around. The next mode we have is 4K 30 frames per second. Again, not bad. I don't have a lot of use for it because I'd rather just do the 5.7K, but you know, hey, why not? Next is the 4K 50 frames per second. This is a pretty nice little feature. The degradation of the image isn't so bad, and that 50 frames per second gives you a little edge of slow-mo that's actually very cool to deal with. And now we're back to the 3K 100 frames per second. So, when you use the video modes, they're all pretty darn good and the footage is very solid. It's really why you should buy this camera. Yeah. We've looked at photos, we've looked at video. Now we're gonna go into the Wi-Fi. So as you can see, we can turn the Wi-Fi on, off. If you want, it'll give you the Wi-Fi password. That's gonna eventually come into play when you wanna hook it up to your phone. And the Wi-Fi channel. So all in all, Wi-Fi is pretty straightforward. Occasionally when you're hooking your Wi-Fi up to your camera, you're gonna have to cycle your Bluetooth on and off, which is a little bit annoying, but they're starting to get that fixed. Next settings, we're gonna go deeper in. We're gonna go past all these modes again. Remember, there is no back button. We have to scroll through all these to the about. Oh wow, there's my serial number. That's always good to know. The quick cap, now that's the thing I have turned on and I do love it. What that ends up doing is, as soon as you hit the power button, it will automatically turn on video. So within a couple of seconds. So rather than having to default into photo mode and then switch to video mode, which can take a few seconds, you have quick cap on and suddenly you can just fire right up into video. I highly recommend using that. Here we've got the LED on. Of course, you're gonna want that. It's kind of a pain in the ass if you don't. And the beep, of course, hello. The one time you may not want to use a beep is, you know, when you're in like a meeting or something like that and you don't want people to freak out. And the format, well, that's where you format the card and you'll erase all the data. So don't hit this unless you're very prepared to do it. But if you don't do it regularly, your card will get maxed out and eventually the thing will freak out and overheat and all that fun stuff. Here's where you can basically go back to your original settings, and also here's where you do your gyro calibration. None of that have I had to do yet, but it's something where if your camera starts acting wacky, you might want to give both of those a shot. Now we're back to done. Now that kind of wraps us up for the bulk of the menu. One thing I want to mention to everybody is that the cell phone requirements for this, I have an iPhone 6 and I would have sworn it said that the app worked for iPhone 6, and it kind of does, but it's actually the iPhone 6S or above. So if you're going to use an iPhone for the app, you're going to want to get an iPhone 6 or better. I've not heard good things about the Android connection on a smartphone. I don't have one, obviously, but you might want to watch out. I have not been hearing good things about the connection. The The app is pretty good. You can take photos and make something out of them, like, well, you get your little, where's our little tiny, you can fisheye, that's a 16 by 9, ooh, tiny planets, and you can do all kinds of editing things. A lot of these I'm not going to get into because I don't really use the app other than as a remote, but thought we'd at least give you the idea that the app does do some decent jobs, keeps all your stuff in order and organized, so not half bad. Ah, isn't that lovely? That's me, live. See? I'm moving my hand. Woo, woo. So you got the app installed, you're using it as your remote, you've got your selfie stick, you're all set, and you know all the menus, you've gotten over all the headaches. Where do we go next? Of course, you can't talk about a camera without talking about its accessories, and there are a few accessories that are pretty awesome about this. Fair warning though that right now it's awfully hard to get your hands on a lot of the accessories, so buyer beware when it comes to trying to pick them up. But the first accessory is one that you get with your camera, and I really like it. It's this Insta360 case. And the nice thing about this is it's kind of made out of material that's almost like a scuba diving material. Very soft, and the camera fits in very nice. Now remember, it's got lenses on both sides, so you don't want to set this thing down without it being in the case because you might scratch the lenses, then you've had a bad day. So you slip it in there, it keeps it covered, and what I like about it is it also goes around my neck when I'm out doing stuff like skiing where it's cold and I got to keep this thing next to my heart, around my neck, into my jacket. Works really well. As I pointed out in another chapter, that does have a 1/4-inch thread that you can then add a selfie stick to, and you are going to want a selfie stick if you're going to be operating this camera. It's really quite easy to just screw in, bam, there you go, and it extends out fairly far. I'd give it, 3.5 feet or so, and it disappears in your footage because of the stitching. The selfie stick actually disappears, so it just looks like there's a camera floating out in front of you. It's a really great piece of gear to have. I highly suggest you put this as the bundle when you order your camera. One thing you cannot put on order with your selfie stick, but you're gonna want with a selfie stick, is a little tripod. This is a third-party accessory. Check the description below. I might have a link to where you can buy it, but you can get these just about anywhere. It also has a 1/4-inch thread, and it goes along the bottom of the selfie stick. Why would you want this? Well, there's a lot of times where carrying the selfie stick gets to be a little bit tiring, or you want to at least be able to step away from your camera for a bit. So once you've got this thing screwed in, you've got a nice little tripod. You can use this for doing like tours of homes and things like that, taking 360 photos of private events and things like that. So getting a tripod with the selfie stick is definitely something I would highly recommend. And while they're not that easy to get your hands on right now, getting one of these battery chargers is a great thing. It takes up to 2 batteries, and it's really nice. The batteries click in there so they don't just fall out by accident. It takes about an hour to charge a battery. You might blow through the charge in 5 minutes if it's cold, or 45 minutes, but it's nice to have at least one of these, if not 2, so that you can keep lots of batteries on hand, because the batteries just don't last that long. As you probably know, you just plug this little USB into a wall wart. Now, they do not come with this wall wart. It's something you're gonna have to have, but you probably already have one. Anyway, you plug in the USB, this goes into the wall, now you're charging, now you're up and going. Once you're up and going, you might want to try some of the accessories. They have a snow bundle, a water bundle, all that stuff. I bought the snow bundle, and it's not bad. Let's just break it down. First of all is this chest mount. Now what happens is the camera gets screwed onto here. You can adjust that up and down, and this thing goes around your body. And it's actually pretty decent. The only downside to it, in my opinion, is this is made out of plastic. It should be made out of metal because it's so light that when you get the camera and you put it on here, it has the weight of the camera has a tendency to pull it down. The other thing about the chest mount you got to think about with a 360 camera is it's up against your body. So instead of getting 360 degrees, you're getting, sometimes only 180 degrees in a shot of your chest. So it's not as beneficial as it might for like a GoPro or something like that, but this thing has served me fairly well. You just got to be prepared that it's a little bit on the flimsy side. The snow bundle also comes with the helmet mount, and the fact that this isn't on a helmet should be testimony to exactly how well it works. It does move up and down. You can put your camera on here and screw it in, and it extends out from your helmet. The problem is I don't even use this anymore. Why? Because there's this sticky stuff that comes with it, and I use it, put it on my helmet. Admittedly, it was cold because I was out in the snow doing some skiing, and within about 10 minutes, this thing just popped off and I had nowhere to go with it. thought, well, maybe it was too cold. I might have applied it in the cold. So let's try it again. Use the last of the little sticky things that they gave me, put it on there, and then brought it back up to the helmet. Used it for about 10 minutes, and helmet mount came out. Piece of crap. Oh, jeez. And I'll end on a high note for the accessories. The one thing you've got to get yourself is a venture case. Now, this thing is designed to basically make it water resistant. They've been having some problems with that, so there's been some recalls, but I just kind of kept mine because what it does is you put the camera in it and you close it up, and then suddenly now you've got a full-on water resistant, shatter resistant thing that basically, if you're going to spend $400 on a camera, you're going to want to get one of these cases. I don't use it all the time, but when I'm out somewhere where I know it might get dinged around, this thing is going to save you a lot of money in the long run. There are buttons on the venture case so you can still power up and get around. You know, the display without the venture case is hard to read, but with the venture case on it, it's even harder to read, so I wouldn't count on it very much. But if you really care about this camera, you got to get yourself a venture case. It's probably the most important accessory you're going to want to pick up. Now keep in mind, these things kind of go in stock and out of stock and in stock and out of stock. So a lot of the accessories that you hope to get your hands on, you might have to be prepared to wait around for a while. If you have a report on that, leave it in the comment section below. But all in all, the accessories aren't half bad. It's an action camera, so you really want to get out there and take advantage of it. Get that venture case, get that selfie stick, get that tripod, go out there and enjoy yourself.